Well, we are working our way through 11 months of programs this year. And I am working on a schedule for 2023 speakers. So if anyone here tonight has a particular topic you would like to be addressed, please let me know. And we can see about finding a speaker that will be of interest to anyone in particular. On the table in the back of the room, we have a sign-up sheet for anyone willing to bring some after-meeting treats. We still have openings for September 1st and November 3rd for tonight's treats. They are beat tonight. Pat Blanchard has provided our treats for us. Anyone willing to or wishing to show off their abilities in treat making, talents, would be welcome to sign up. We have, once again, we have September 1st and November 3rd open. Tonight, prior to introducing our speaker tonight, a couple words about our August program. If ever you've researched your family tree and found more than what you bargained for, you'll be able to relate to what Ron Ahrens found when he researched his father's background. He's titled his program Sex, Lies, and Genealogical Tapes. So we can fill in some of the blanks just for the title. It's an enjoyable program, and he will be joining us via Zoom from Oakland, and that will be on August the 4th. Our speaker tonight, Melissa Scroggins. If the name sounds familiar, it's because she joined us just this past September, and she gave us a genealogical search on a home. Our subject tonight is one that has genealogical researchers busily digging into the 1950 census. So without delay, Melissa Scroggins.
Okay, I'll try to stand up here. We'll see how long I last. Has everybody been playing on the 1950 census already? And it's been out for a few months now. Okay. So I'm going to do just a little bit of background on kind of 1940 versus 1950. So 1940 we were still pre-World War II. Agriculture was still strong in the U.S. Workforce was still predominantly male. And in 1950, we're now in the post-World War II era. There's a big boom in industry and moving into the city. More people are working than ever before, both genders now. Of course, we had our giant baby boom after the war. And suburban life is emerging. We're moving away from the farms. I've got a pretty cool little graphic here. This is the change since 1940. We're now at 59% urban rather than the rural life. And the rural farm is even smaller than the rural. So we've got some changes going on in the world, in the U.S. And the census is also changing a little bit. So in 1940, we had 34 questions that everyone was asked, and then we had a random sampling of 11 more questions. It was released as images with no index. Oh, does everyone remember the panic of the 1940 coming out? And how long will it be before we can find our people because there's no index? Well, Family Search, we proved we could index within 4 months, so that was pretty awesome. Changes now, 1950, we're down to 14 questions from 34. Then there's 7 more if you were over 14. They were asking if you were working, if you were going to school. And then there was 13 questions on the sample. And this year, They actually released it with an AI, an artificial intelligence index. So they taught the computer to read handwriting, finally. And they actually did a couple passes with that, and the National Archives released a version, and Ancestry ran their own. So this is just a look at the questions. We've got our usual suspects. Why is number 4? Where you lived. Is this on a farm or a ranch? Is this house on more than 3 acres? If it was, then it went to an agricultural census. Then our usual name, relationship, race, sex, age on your last birthday, marital status. New in 1950, they actually added never, so you might see the NEV when you're looking at records. They were never married. State or country of birth, naturalization. And then there's an AP in that one now, if you were born abroad to American parents. So we had a little bit more traveling going on. Then here's our questions for the 14 and over. Basically all about work. Have you worked? How much do you make? What kind of work is it? That good stuff. Our sample questions is the one I'm aggravated about. Were you in the military? So they only asked 7 people on the whole page that military question. And like for my grandparents, my grandfather had been in the Army, but my grandma was the sample question, so she hadn't been. So I didn't get to find out any more information about that. But if you were lucky enough, they asked them which war they were in, or if they were still in the service. So, 1950, they made a concerted effort to get educated people to walk the precincts and take the information. We know the early days how bad those censuses are between misspellings, mistranscription, mishearing, horrible handwriting. This time they kind of went after teachers, so that was nice. You had to pass a test. They said they needed sturdy legs, tact. It paid if you were a Democrat. And you needed a high school education. They paid $1 an hour plus 7 cents for the infant cards. So you made about $8 to $9 a day for 2 to 6 weeks, depending on. If you did urban, you had the 2-week slot. If you were doing rural, you did a 4-week slot. They actually this time did 24 hours of instruction with movies on how to dress, how to persuade a suspicious householder, and how to ask a woman's age.
And how did they do that?
I haven't seen the movies. I would love to see those.
Me.
So I was looking through the newspaper and I found some funnies about the census. So one census taker got the bird, but not what you think. So they was in Missouri. The enumerator knocked on the door and heard, "Yoo-hoo, just a minute," a voice from inside called. So she waited a few minutes. She knocked again. "It's a census enumerator." "Oh, yoo-hoo, just a minute." So she waited 15 minutes and then finally went next door, discovered there was a parrot that lived at the house. That's in Missouri. Just a good general headline. Dog bites bunions, irate women, census takers find everything. Okay, this one would be genealogy jackpot, for sure. Pembroke, Maine. The census taker made a day when he reached the Foss home. There he found under the same roof 41 blood relatives, representing 5 generations. I still need to go. I was going to go try to find that family on the census. I haven't done it yet, but we've got enough clues. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then we've all heard these stories through the years of women fibbing on the census about their age.
Wow.
2 sisters got got stricken with guilt and went to their enumerating board and said, "We're very sorry, but we failed on the census." They had been posing as 11 years younger for all these years, and they repeated it so many times they just kind of went with it. But were overcome with guilt, yes, and went to them. And so they changed it on the form, but they didn't let the neighbors know, so they kept that confidentiality. So they got to keep their age in their neighborhood, but on the census it got corrected. Okay. There was also a move to catch people that were missed. So this ran in the paper a few times. If they missed you, you were to fill this out and mail it into your census board. 1950 was the last time that census takers walked it first before sending out these forms. So, and I actually found an example we'll get to of there was 3 or 4 counties in Michigan and Ohio, I think, where they mailed out the forms and they were mailed back in just as a pilot. So actually one of my family members is on one I found yesterday, so that was pretty cool. So I've added it in there. Okay, so there's 3 places that I'm going to talk about where you can view the census. There's a few others, but the main one is National Archives. They have their 1950 census.archives.gov. That's where it was released first. They've got their index there as well as the images, and we'll go look at some of those. Of course, Ancestry and then Family Search. But MyHeritage, Find My Past, quite a few different places have them as well. So the National Archives site has their index. They also have images. They have the enumeration district maps that are really nice. Okay, then Ancestry, sorry, let me look at my notes real quick. Okay, so because the computer has indexed it, it's very flawed. It's better than nothing, but they've been asking for help from the public to correct and make it better. So Ancestries, the ones in green are the ones that have been completed. The rest of them are in there, but they're still kind of junky. They're working with Family Search to get it all done. And Ancestry used its own software to read the handwriting.
What do you mean exactly by indexing? By name or?
Yes, just like they would be, like we've seen it for 1940, they're doing names first, and then eventually I think they'll grab the rest of it. But they're trying to get the names. When we look at National Archives, okay, when I did the top last month, this is what it looked like in June. Here we are in July, so they've added some more. Okay, here's Family Searches. So Family Search, they've gone through it. I think we've got 100%. They've gone through and read the names, and now they're putting families together, grouping them. So this was June. Oh my goodness. And here's July. So we're getting along there. It's very easy to go in and help. If you've got a Family Search account, you just log in, say I want to help. You can do it while you watch TV. It's really easy.
And you can do however many you want.
Yeah, they do them in,
Like in 20s.
yeah. Okay. Oh, here's how you can also do it on the National Archives site. So you just enter you tell them you want to help transcribe. Oh. Help us transcribe, you put in your email, they send you a verification code, just making sure you're not another computer, I guess, wanting to do it. And then you go in and tell them which number you want to do, So, let's see, what did I pick? I picked line 16 here, so you can start with your own family names. So I did Scroggins Clinton. Just make sure it was in there and hit OK. And it says, thank you for submitting, and that one you can do one at a time if you want, or if you just want to do your people. So here's the example of the original, what the computer did, which is, here's my Scroggins, it's S-E-R, so close enough I knew who I was looking for. But now I've got them down here, and I went ahead and did the whole page. The computer was really good at reading not at home, which is nice. There's a lot of those in the census this time, not at home or vacant. But the handwriting for other things, it had some trouble. Here's Donana, which I think was actually Dorothy. So there's a few. The other thing it didn't do, because on the census page, they only wrote the surname once. So the computer didn't know family groups. They didn't have a way to program that in. So that's one thing that we're doing now with Family Search is you go in and review the family. So you pick all these people and you say, okay, all these are the same family, so we'll add that McKinsey to it, and then make sure the names are spelled right, ages and stuff. So we're getting families grouped together. So that's the big push now, which will of course make searching easier. Okay. So here's the two parts on Family Search: review families, review names. Theirs is nice. It highlights what you're verifying. You've got a match you can edit, or you're not sure. Or if you get a vacant person, oh, sorry, there we go. So if you're not sure, there's a little button over here that says not a person or a transcription error, you can correct. Really easy though. Here's how they're doing the families in Family Search. So we pick these 4 guys, and you just make sure they all get put in the same household. The only problem is when you've got a bottom one and you're not sure if the family's on the next page, sometimes those are hard to catch, but they'll get those eventually. So now to the fun. So what I did to get started was I made a hit list of who I was looking for. I put it in Excel. I've got their name, their birth year, where they were in 1940, but my whole family between the end of World War II and 1950 moved to California. Every one of them. At least, my main grandparents. Or so I thought. So I got kind of where I think they landed, and I went to work searching. So National Archives search is really easy. You can pick your place, you can put in your name, and it'll pull up your image here. So I was looking just for Scrogginses in Fresno because my grandpa had 5 brothers and they all came this way. So the first one I found was my uncle. So there's the page there, and you can go down and see the transcription. And then you can click on this page, you can zoom it in, you can save it, just like you would on Ancestry. And then it's got a whole bunch of pages, and we'll go to the internet and look at some in just a minute. One nice thing that National Archives did was pulled out the Indian reservation schedules. So if you've got Native relatives, you can pick your reservation and then search like you would with names. Ancestry has it as well. They're just buried within whatever county the reservation's in. So they're a little harder to find. But they're... Okay. So these are my grandparents and my Aunt Linda. So I wanted to find them, and I my aunt was born in Fresno, but my uncle, who was born in 1951, was born in Roseburg, Oregon. So I wasn't sure where they would be for sure. And I called my aunt, she said, I was one, I don't know where we lived. I was like, okay, that's true. And both my grandparents have passed, so I couldn't ask them. But I found them here in Fresno. They're right down here at the bottom. And I went through National Archives to find this one. Okay, so then I've got another example of the Websters. This was one a Fresno person gave me to try. She wasn't sure if they were in Salt Lake or this other county in Utah. So for them, I tried Family Search and Ancestry, and I had better luck in Ancestry. So right now, we're still in that flux of the transcription getting good. So sometimes you have to try both websites, National Archives, Family Search, and Ancestry to find them. But I found them in that weird county in Utah that I can't pronounce. But there they are all together, and then they actually got in the sampling question too, so I was able to give her that information. Okay, so what if you can't find them by name? You know a county, but you're just not getting anywhere. But on this one, I'm looking for Lewis and Carrie Newcomer, and I have their actual address, 1512 Big Bend Road. So there's a cool spot on Ancestry, and I'm going to move back here real quick and show you. You can plug in the address, and it's the funnest thing ever. Give me a second to get out of here. Okay, so I've pulled up the website already and I've got this plugged in. Are you ready for it? Okay. Once I hit search.
Is that the Mississippi River?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So now we're here. We found their place. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. It's overlaid the enumeration district map. And they're right there, that Big Bend Road. They could have been in either one of those. That's the line that between enumeration districts. So it looks like they're in 1625. So now I can go there. And I can cheat because I already have the page number, but for something like this though, where they could have been in two different enumeration districts, now I know for sure which one they're in. And my notes say page 14. So let's skip ahead. So normally you just walk through and look at each page. And there they are. James, Carrie, and all the kids that I really didn't know they had. This is a sister to my great-grandmother, so I haven't kept up with them as much, but. So we've got head, wife, and 4 boys. Oh, and if we look over here, here's 1512 and Bend Road. So I know that's them. And then just like our regular, our other censuses, we've got all the questions they asked. Up here you can see what those were. So he was working 40 hours a week.
Punch press operator.
Yeah, punch press operator and electrical appliance, probably manufacturing. One of the boys was a deckhand on a riverboat because they were right there by the Mississippi. And another one of the boys was a pin setter at a bowling alley. So kind of fun.
30 hours a week, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
For a teenager.
Yeah. This poor kid working 84, that seems,
12 hours a day.
yeah. Okay, let me go back over here.
My
real quick.
family's from Missouri, I recognize that county.
Yeah. Okay, so what if no one was home? This is another, obviously, relative of mine. They lived at 1475, it's 18th Street. And I had gone through looking for them. And I was like, well, here's their address, but they're not at home. Right here, it says, not at home, see sheet 77, lines 3 through 5. So let's go back out here real quick.
Weren't they supposed to talk to the neighbors?
This time, they actually made a couple rounds before they talked to the neighbors,
Okay.
which is kind of nice. That way you know you're getting that little bit better information. Okay, of course it's one of these S's, San Bernardino, Upland. Okay, hopefully I wrote down which district that was.
And you're looking for Upland?
I didn't write down which district.
36 to 67?
Well, here we've got Upland split into a few different ones.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat because I know they're actually in here this way. It's Upland. And this is one I actually found them this way, but saw that they were in this missed section, so I'm using it as an example. Okay. Go up here to the page. So, one thing we learned was we don't need a deep dive. Down here, there's only 24 images for this particular section, yet we're on page 77. So for 1950, they went through, it's usually about 14 to 16 pages of actual first run through the census, or first run through the district. And if they weren't home, the instructions said, okay, when you come back and you find them, start your sheets now on 71, because they figured we're not going to get any districts that big. So 71 is the start of all the people that were missed, and then they'd write down, like mine, page 77. If you zoom in over here, oh, they were lines 2 through 5, not 3 through 5, but we got close. So here they are. These are all the other people that were missed. There's lots of notes in this census, which is really cool. But this one in particular is mine, so that's always cool. So there's some never married because they're only 6 and 2. So if we go back to page 15. Oop. Ooh, look at FBI agent.
Wow!
George Gibson. Wow, I'm surprised they put his occupation in there, really.
FBI. Sorry.
Okay, so here's sheet number 14. We turn the page. Oh, sorry, 15. I couldn't remember how many this one had. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's 71. So we went from 15 to 71. And all of your enumeration districts are going to do that. So if you find someone that's missing and it says C, so you can skip up to find page 71. And then what, we got 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we got about 8 pages of missed people that they have they gotten in here. So in other words,
we're not missing pages 17 through 70.
Right,
They just
yes,
intentionally skipped those pages.
yes.
Okay.
Why they picked 71, I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, that was, okay, let's go back to, okay, now this one, let me go back out here so we can pull it up easier. So I was looking for some more family members, and luckily I have enough weird names, because we all know those are easier to search. So I've got Mr. Canova and Dylan. And so part of my family, they all were around Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee. And half of them came to California and half of them went up to the Michigan area to work in the car industry. So he was one that went north. Oh my goodness. Okay, sometimes it just wants to mess with me. He was in Flint. Oh, here we go. So, spelled wrong, Canova, but it's the right person. So when I got to this image, I was like, what in the world is this? This doesn't look like any of them that I've seen so far. But they were part of that pilot project of, here's your form, send it in when you're done. So we've got the head of household, his wife, their daughter. And it's set up all kinds of, it's different, but yet it still kind of looks like what we see nowadays. So this time they put the questions here so they're easier to be read. So your relationship, your race, sex, how old were you on your last birthday? Are you now married, widowed, divorced, separated, or never married? What state or foreign country were you born in? Were you naturalized? And then here's your 14 years or older question. So it's kind of nice. This they typed out a lot more, so you didn't have to worry about them writing in something crazy. It was just a good yes, no. This one, if you were out of work, they asked if you were looking for work, which I thought was kind of neat. And it was like, did you work last week? Okay, so 18. Did this person do any work at all last week, not counting work around the house? Were you looking for work? Even though you didn't work last week, do you have a job or business? And then how many hours did you work last week? It was kind of interesting. He was working as a truck driver in a lumber camp, or company. Worked 60 hours a week. Let's see, daughter, so she wasn't working. And then these, they had really neat questions on the back side of all these pages. Even the regular census, they did a lot more household things. They grabbed the statistics off of it and didn't microfilm them. And then of course, once these were microfilmed, they threw them away. So we lost all that really cool data that might have been very interesting to genealogists. But so it goes with the government, right? Okay. Ooh, another thing, let me go back out. So there's notes. They took notes like crazy in the census. So let's go back. And I ended up using Ancestry more because National Archives indexing is still kind of junky. So they really are easier to find in Ancestry, unfortunately, versus National Archives. Let me think about how to get back. Right, let's go this way. Okay. This is Ancestry's main landing page, so you don't even have to be signed into Ancestry to look for stuff. Okay, so now we're gonna go San Bernardino, but we're gonna go out to the country. Oh, there we go, okay. So if you zoom in up here at the top, look at all these notes they've made. So this is out on the mountain in San Bernardino County. So they're actually giving you directions to the houses that they went to. 1 mile from 395 on the left side of Phelan Rock, or Phelan Road. Number 3 was 1 6/10 of a mile from 395 on the right side of the Phelan Road. And my uncle actually lived up in Phelan, so I was like, I know where this is. This is so crazy. But then we've got some notes here. Through oversight, several persons were not enumerated on the first day. Their names should have appeared in the number 2, but instead go to 71, lines 18 through 24, and sheet 72, lines 1 through 8. So here's where they should have fit in. We missed them. So go find them over here. There was another, is that at the bottom? Yes, okay. So for person number 10, Mildred C. Noyes, 61 from New Jersey. There's actually a note down here. When the enumerator passed this ranch later in the month, the house was occupied, and upon inquiring, learned the owners had moved up from Los Angeles to make their home here. It was then the amount of acreage was learned. So I have heard stories, I haven't found examples, but if someone was retiring within the year and they let the census taker know, they made a note of that. Some deaths are recorded that way. So there's note fields either on the bottom or on the top. So as you're looking through it, make sure you look at those. They're very well footnoted to what line they go to. Does anyone have anyone they want me to look up? I love a challenge.
CJ Ho.
Okay, let me get back to my search screen here. Okay, CJ.
CJ, H-O-U-G-H. H.
I knew that in my head still. Where do we think they were?
They're either in LA or in, next to Pixley.
Pixley, okay.
They were in LA or Pixley, I don't know which one.
Okay, let's do this one first.
What's that Green Acre song? Goodbye City Life?
Yeah, right.
Green Acres.
Claude J.
Charlotte, yeah. So they're
So
in
there's
El Monte?
El Monte, yeah. So let's look at that page.
So they hasn't come to Pixley yet.
So here we go.
Yeah. In El Monte.
at 3047, where's our street name? Oh, come on.
Should be in Baldwin Park, but we'll take on one.
Well, on an unknown street, but they have a street number, that's interesting. Get rid of that. Okay, so we've got Claude J. and Charlotte, Alan and Richard, 53. Some, here we are, census, some handwriting's better than others, but what can you do?
What's your family? Richard, what's your family?
That's my family.
Yeah. He was working as a manager of a Baker Supply Company.
Fearless East,
Okay.
he was in the county.
Ah. Cool.
So they're in LA,
They're in LA.
and for some reason they're not in
Well, why does
mother's
it
house.
say never married here, but when you look at the census, he's married.
Oh, they got that mixed up, didn't they?
Yeah, and at the bottom it says head of house and wife. You're not married.
Well, here we go.
Sticks.
So we can. let me see
Somebody
if
messed
it'll-
up. It should be in Baldwin Park.
They want him to get lost.
Well, one of my family,
They're close. Elmont and Baldwin
I
Park.
was gonna say it might have been.
yeah, it might have been right on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The house was probably in Baldwin Park, but the census taker said Elmont.
Yeah. This is where I'm at, so this is what we're calling it.
My brother was born in a hospital in Elmont, and I was born in a hospital in Covina. So
Oh, okay.
they're
Yeah.
all
It's all
nestled together.
even back then. Well, I couldn't find, oh gracious. I couldn't find my mom's parents, even though I was sure they were out in California, because when they got married in 1948, that's what they did on their honeymoon, was move to California. And I couldn't find them, so I looked for her mom in Kentucky and thought, well, I know Grandma and Grandpa stayed around, so see if we could find them, and that she was right there, right where I thought they'd be. So I went to look at the page. Maybe. So here's my great-grandparents, Isaac and Ora Watts, where I thought they'd be in Hickman, Kentucky. But right above them are my grandparents, Sam and Ethel, who were supposed to be in California. So this grandma's still alive, she's 92. And I said, Grandma, why were you back in Kentucky in 1950? And she's like, well, we went back a couple times to help her dad on the farm. He was a sharecropper. And I guess at this point he's in his 50s. So they probably went back to help out. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, we'll take it.
Can we search one more?
Of course. Let me get back to my search screen. All right.
Adele, what's your dad's name?
Okay, I was adopted.
Okay.
My mother died when she gave birth to me.
Okay.
So back in the 40s, they didn't have all this technology that happened
Right.
nowadays. So, but, all I know that I was raised with my grandparents. My grandma was from Spain. She was from Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to Texas, and then from Texas, they came over here to California.
Okay.
So I was raised in Corcoran.
Okay.
California. But I don't know, and my father, he never married my mother, so, he got remarried. So I don't know much about my mother because she died.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
But can you look it up just on my grandmother?
Uh-huh.
Okay, can you look up Rebecca Castro, then she married an Ordonez.
So in 1950, would she have been married in 1950?
My grandma?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what would be her last name in 1950?
Well, I was born in 45, so she, her last name, that's why I don't know much about my mother, because I was raised with my maternal grandmother, and at that time, my grandmother, she didn't, you know, people back then, they didn't give you much information. They were very
Yeah.
quiet, very secretly, and so forth. But this is what I think, okay? This is what I think, and God forgive me if I'm wrong, but because I don't know. I believe that my mother, my maternal mother,
Mhm.
was probably, when my grandmother came over here to California, she was pregnant.
Mm.
And I don't know who she was pregnant from.
Oh, yeah.
But my daughter-in-law, she took, what was GA name?
Mhm.
And she found out that I'm black, and I'm also, I'm an American Indian.
Okay,
And that's all I know about myself.
yeah.
And so I don't know how to go about it,
Mm.
finding out
So
who
what's the
they
last
are.
name? What last name do you want us to look
My
for?
last name, adopted name was Ordonez,
Okay.
Ordonez.
Is that how you spell it?
No.
Yes.
With the I? or-
Rebecca, Ordonez.
That's what I thought. Okay. And you said Corcoran?
Uh-huh.
Can't spell that either. There we go.
C-O-R-C-O-R-A-N.
There she is.
Oh, there we go.
Wow.
You can come back.
There you are.
Paul?
There you are, Adelina.
Here I am.
Oh,
Yes.
let me get it out of the
Says
sun
here,
there.
her niece.
You see, my maiden, my father's name was Jimenez, but they adopted me to Ordonez.
Okay.
So were they related to you? Because they list you as their niece.
Tony Sanchez,
That was,
my cousins.
her grandmother raised her because her mother died at birth.
Okay.
So it would have been actually granddaughter.
So what a granddaughter, not
Yeah.
niece.
Was my
Fun.
You were
Okay.
never married when you were 4 years old.
Oh, phew.
Boy, I tell you.
Oh, goodness, sorry, that was. Okay. So yeah, you can probably then follow
So.
them back in
Rebecca and Paul
census
both
record.
were born in Mexico, according to that.
Yeah. Oh, my word.
Why did they cross out something?
Yeah.
That, I don't know if it could have been the census taker messed up, or most likely it was that.
Because she was brought up from Spain too, because her mother died when she was only about 5 years old or something like that.
Okay.
And she was brought up from an aunt, her aunt, and she was in Mexico.
Okay.
Are you Catholic?
She was.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church has lots and lots of records.
Yeah.
So if you get back into the diocese in Mexico, you can find a lot of information about the family.
Yeah. Texas also has some good records for these guys. You can probably find some birth certificates perhaps. And then probably your mom too that was there, maybe. Cool. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Any other questions about the 1950 census? I'll do my best.
Yeah, so if we're having with transcribing, and they correctly transcribed which the census taker wrote, but the census taker was wrong, because you know.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to just type what they transcribed even though you may know it's the wrong spelling, or, you know?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
And then let somebody else go back and correct it?
Yeah. Then you can come, when you're in Ancestry,
Uh-huh.
there's a little button under here, up here under this.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah, then you'd correct it that way there,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Now, what exactly happens when, I practice that when I have a misspelling, but what exactly does that do and who does it go to?
Let me pull up one here that I know.
Because I've been correcting misspellings in my family, and
So
I,
I think when you correct them, that name will also come up if you do a search.
Yeah.
So
Oh my goodness.
long ago, early on in Ancestry, I would actually get emails back saying that they had accepted the correction. But I don't get that anymore, so I have a
Yeah, I
feeling
haven't
that
been
they're
getting
inundated
anything.
with corrections and they're not doing that, so they just have it there so that you can still search for the name that you corrected it to, but they're not changing it in their database.
Yeah, let me show you
I've
this.
been kind
one
of,
if I can find it.
like looking back at the records when I do a change and I point out the correct spelling, or I put in a woman's maiden last name, and to see if what I'm doing is
Yeah.
bringing her additional records into her group of hints, you know.
So eventually, it should start to look like this with the corrections. So here's Mark Twain under his real name, still spelled wrong. So they've added in, okay, it should be Samuel L. Clemens. And then somebody said, well, let's put his whole name in, Langhorne Clemens. And then somebody else said, well, hey, actually, he's Mark Twain. You might want to look for him that way too.
And then,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Long
so-
ago, they were actually trying to update and
Yeah.
correct their database, and
Yeah,
I think they just.
I think it got too overwhelmed, yeah, exactly. So they should show up here though, so you'll still
Yeah.
find them in the search. Let me do a couple, let me think of who, okay. We did a couple fun ones in Fresno, let me think. We thought, well, let's look for some famous people, see how they show up in the census.
Oh, God.
Oh,
No, that's not her real name.
let me get her in the right area though. Oh, here she is in Beverly Hills. Divorce.
Boy.
That's what we weren't sure, like who would she be married to at the time or any of that. So here she shows up in Beverly Hills. 21.
Maggio or Arthur Miller, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Couple of.
I feel like her age is probably a little off, but I don't want to, oh, jeepers.
I didn't think that was her real name.
It's not, but she was already known by that, so I think they went with it. So she was an actress at a what is that? Motion picture studio. Yeah.
Something like Hog.
Then we've got another actress, so it was neat to see like who lived on her street. I don't think there was anybody else.
But she was only working 8 hours.
Well, I mean, it was Maryland. So we've got a songwriter, recording artist, Johnny Mercer. Yeah.
Quite a composer.
Let's see, who else do we, oh, I think.
Her original name was Norma something, wasn't it?
Yes,
Norma Jean.
Baker, yeah. So here's Walt Disney. They were in, let's see, they were in LA. He had a sister-in-law and a maid as well living with them. But I liked his because it said President Motion Picture Cartoon Studio.
I know.
It does.
Mickey Mouse.
So you just never know who you can find in the census.
Now, Now, when they do, you know, I have a 77-year-old friend that is a census taker,
Uh-huh.
and he walks the beat. And I haven't really, I should talk to him a little bit more before I ask this question, but are they using any kind of laptops or any kind of electronic input to clean up the mistakes? Or is it all still written down?
I want to say they had tablets this time. Because I know for 2020, of course, we were trying before the big shutdown, so the libraries, and I don't know if they did it here, I'm sure they must have done it here at Tulare too, that they asked the libraries to have special dedicated computers.
Yeah, we did.
So you could just come in and do it direct, because what did they mailed out postcards for 2020 that had like
They had a code that you
A
could go
code, yeah,
online
yeah,
and
a
do it
code.
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, so we had dedicated computers at the library so people could come in and do that and not have to worry about things. And then I think when they went back around, I want to say they had tablets that they could.
It didn't really help because then COVID closed all the libraries.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
couldn't come in and do it
We
anyway.
tried really hard. Yeah.
But we all got trained just in case.
Yes. Okay, one last one, and then if there's no more questions, that's all I've got. Watch me not spell it right. So
He was Francis.
Was it Francis Albert?
He's the same with Dorsey Brothers Band,
yeah,
so it was all over the place.
yeah, we weren't really sure where we'd find him, if he'd be on the road or. So here he is
And there's his daughter.
in LA, but we've got him with Nancy Jr., Frank Jr., and Christina, and a cook.
He was also targeted at the bottom and highlighted because he was number 10.
That's right. Okay, so we got to ask him. His parents were born in Italy. Is anyone surprised? He went through high school, so there we go, senior secondary school, 12th grade. Says he worked 52 weeks last year. I wonder. Okay, he worked 60 hours last week. He was an actor and a singer, motion pictures, recording, and television. So he was everything. I was hoping they'd give us a salary. I guess not. That's probably on the back of the page.
Yes, since they threw it away.
Yes. So it's kind of fun walking through.
So what does the census really find out about all of us Americans by taking this information down? I mean, I mean, I think it's very valuable, I mean, for historical purposes, but I mean, what are they doing it for national security so they know where all the menfolk are if a war comes, or?
No.
The IRS.
Or, yeah, are they tracking you down, make sure you're paying and working and?
No, they use it for,
Determining how many legislators you get in each
yeah,
state.
drawing boundary lines, how many
Determining how much federal
legislators.
aid goes to the counties and the states.
Yeah,
Education.
Population.
yeah, they use demographic information, your, how old everyone is in the neighborhood, if they're working or if they're out of work. That kind of stuff drives different programs that are available that you could get grants for, or different funding that's available for your county. And all that stuff, so they'll take the census and they lock down this information. But as immediately as it's done, all that statistical stuff is pulled. How old people are, how many people live in a district, how many ethnic breakdowns, salaries.
And it changes overnight.
Yeah, They do, whether you own a home or you're renting, you're on a farm, you're not on a farm. I think they even, all these different codes go back to something that will let them know either an industry or, I'm not sure which but they've got codes for everything. So they'll pull out all that statistical stuff really quick because they're using it for taxes and legislation and all that good stuff. So just 10 more years till 1960.
I gotta wait 20 to see mine.
Yeah.
I will not make it.
Any other questions?
No.
No? Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.